members. And once again, today we are discussing Senate Bill 27, and that is the repeal language for Section 1280C. After last week's meeting and many other conversations that have taken place for probably close to 2 years on this issue, we've invited back Natasha Baker. She is our state reform officer, and give her an opportunity to maybe talk a little bit about what we discussed last week in committee, and then address some specific questions that we put to the SRO last week in the form of a letter and the invitation to come on our committee today. So welcome, Natasha. I appreciate your willingness to join us today on this issue, and if there is any overflow, we ask that everybody find a seat and we can move to room 1300 if we run out of seats. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Natasha. Thank you.
Good morning. Before I jump into the slide, let me with a short story. Can you hear me? The other way? There we go. I'll try it again. Good morning. I'd like to start with just a brief story, just for some context that will drive the spirit with which you may understand the work that the SRO does. When I was 12 years old, my brother was shot and killed. My sister is a high school dropout with 4 kids by 4 different men. My oldest brother is a recovering crack cocaine addict. Both of my parents are deceased, and right before my 39th birthday last year, my mother's second son died at 55 years old. I flew back to California for Thanksgiving and buried my precious brother, who was autistic. Upon learning about my recent loss, staff in the State School Reform Office sent flowers to my house on the east side of Detroit. Dan Ledoux, the Assistant Director of Data and Accountability, apologized in a soft tone while he stared at me, searching for a reaction. "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't know what to say. I've never lost anyone in my life except for a grandparent." As a state educational leader myself and one who has glaucoma, I watched as Dan fought back tears before continuing. "I know you took care of it financially and organizationally. My biggest fear is that you're going to burn out." Dan has been in education for over a decade, and he has a master's degree from Michigan State University. He lives in a typical predominantly white, upper-middle-class suburban neighborhood with a beautiful wife and their 2 college-bound sons who both attend one of the highest-performing high schools in the state of Michigan. People who grew up like me are relatively non-existent in Dan's neighborhood. So besides me, Dan's never had a close relationship with anyone whose high threshold for pain and sacrifice was generated from poverty. Today, I presume there are numerous people who remain amazed by the resilience and grit built inside of poor kids who grow into productive middle-class adults. Many kids born into poverty learn to navigate socio-political systems long before they ever develop the ability to articulate how their interactions necessitate a double consciousness. Poor kids inadvertently navigate the black world in which they were born and the white world into which they ascend once educated and on a high-wage earning career path. Burnout simply isn't an option because survival, flexibility, and focus have become second nature by the time some poor kids reach adulthood. And I'm strictly referring to those poor kids who manage not to allow the complexities of their environment reduce their productivity or shift their desired life outcomes. These are the warriors in the group, the diamonds in the rough, the ones who will defy the odds regardless of how many times standards are lowered and surrounding images reinforce stereotypes. Bearing my brother Dennis Ray Sanders was yet just another life-bearing responsibility that comes with being the only warrior in my immediate family who used education to beat the odds to transition out of poverty into the middle class. However unfortunate it was, my childhood provides me with the opportunity to serve with authenticity, fierce resolve, and unwavering focus. I also reflect on the parent that my brother and I shared and how she made sure that I had the education necessary to be who I am today. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Natasha Baker, and I'm the State School Reform Officer. I read my story to you for context regarding the spirit with which the State School Reform Office leads our mission. And our mission is to turn priority schools into the highest performing schools in the state, because kids who graduate who cannot read will not be employable. They will not be able to take care of their families, and most of the men who are supposed to be supporting their families will serve jail time by the time they're my age. Those are facts. And so our mission is not just to have schools write plans. We want to make sure that when kids leave high school, that they're on a career path that allows them to end multi-generational poverty, of which I know a lot about.